Today on Listen Up, pandemic. North America braces for a challenging flu season, and we explore how Canadians are preparing for the worst. Today on Listen Up, Canada and its H1N1 preparedness. I'm Lorna Duick in Calgary, where we'll tell you the story of how this city is unlocking a hidden resource to get ready for what could be our worst flu in decades. H1N1 has been labeled a pandemic. The word alone is enough to strike fear. We'll show a plan on how Alberta churches are putting courage and kindness into the preparedness. And this woman's story. In just 14 days, her healthy husband died from H1N1. His dying lesson later in the show. But first, we'll find out what the Canadian government is doing to prepare for H1N1. And that journey takes us to Winnipeg. Here at the Canadian Science Centre for Human and Animal Health, we'll talk to the scientist who leads the charge in keeping Canada safe from this pandemic. And we'll find out why Dr. Francis Plummer says we should all be vaccinated against H1N1. This is the lab that reacts far differently to pandemic than does the average Canadian.
No one's really talking about it. It doesn't seem that big of a deal.
Not really convinced, I haven't seen anybody with it.
I have one son who's in college, living in residence. So I've stocked up on hand sanitizer. Shoppers Drug Mart went and sent that all with him when he went back to school. And just really reminding him about the hand washing and going through it all with our family and just taking the little precautions that can make all the difference.
I don't think there's a big problem with the H1N1 as anymore. The World Health Organization actually said and claimed that it was in fact a pandemic, I believe, at one point. It's been at least about 4 months now. So I don't really think we have a problem with it.
Not really.
Are you concerned about it at all?
Not really. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. You breathe the air around you. So why get anxious? Mm-hmm. People worry too much about what might or might not happen.
Yeah.
So just go with the flow.
Just washing our hands constantly and taking care of the little ones, especially to wash their hands every single time they go out on the park and when they come back from daycare, for example.
And this is Canada's ground zero to protect the nation against infectious disease. It's the world's only microbiology lab that combines human and animal health, making this Winnipeg lab an international resource for testing viruses and vaccines and sharing that information with the world. If a pandemic is coming, they know it first. Listeria, E. coli, a variety of viral diseases are all on its watch and control list. And it's a good thing its chief science advisor doesn't often leave his BlackBerry.
Well, I was sitting in my study watching a hockey game on Friday evening, April 17th, and as I do, I was checking my BlackBerry every few minutes for anything that might be happening, and this was a big one.
A big one indeed. Distracted from the face-off on ice, Dr. Plummer was being paged by a government scientist in Mexico. Experts there in a face-off with a strain of virus never seen before. Specimens of that respiratory illness were immediately shipped to Dr. Plummer's diagnostic team at the Winnipeg lab.
Within 24 hours, we knew that they had a problem that was also occurring in the States with this new virus. And then about 48 hours after that, we had the first cases in Canada diagnosed. So we were sort of very instrumental in kind of figuring out that there was a pandemic and alerting the world to the problem.
So how does the lab feel about how Canadians are responding to it? Is the tone of pandemic unnecessary?
I don't think so. This is a new influenza strain that's spread very rapidly around the world. And although in most instances it's mild and not much worse than the seasonal flu, a small fraction of people, less than 1%, get severely ill and end up in intensive care units for long periods of time. So it's something we need to be worried about. Canada's concern is part of a global alert.
No, it's a pandemic, of course. It's a new virus that is, I find,
most of the population susceptible to it, it fulfills all the criteria for the pandemic virus.
Severity aside, Dr. Oleva says Canada is ready.
Canada has a very strong and well planned action, and that we have been using as a template for other countries. And talking to the health authorities, they are putting in place all necessary measures to mitigate the impact of the H1N1.
So what should Canadians prepare for?
It starts with mild upper respiratory illness, very rapidly develops fever, muscle aches and pains, cough, headache, and I think you'll know when you have it.
How do you advise Canadians take care of themselves for this?
Well, there's the, respiratory etiquette. When you cough and when you sneeze, into a handkerchief or into your sleeve. Wash your hands frequently. Stay home if you're sick, and get vaccinated. It's particularly important for those that have underlying conditions and for pregnant women.
And how can we be assured the vaccine is safe and ready for us?
We have a lot of experience with this type of vaccine for influenza, many years, over 50 years of experience. And there are occasional adverse reactions, but adverse reactions occur at a frequency that's much less than the risk of severe complications from influenza.
So get your vaccination.
Absolutely.
Later in the show, he was healthy and robust, but H1N1 killed Perry Chernesky. We'll find out his dying advice later. But first, churches in Calgary are working to create a pandemic emergency response plan. We'll find out how after this.
It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. We're building an infrastructure network before it starts to rain.